Okay, let's start. 2024, this year's topic of Tanzania Network is Good Life for All. So we want to look at food and sports and humor. But first of all, we'll have a look at the topic of work because this makes up a lot of time of our daily life. For today, there will be three parts of this seminar. First of all, we'll have a look at digital work in Tanzania, and I'm very grateful that the expert Ndimbumi Msongole is with us to tell us about that later. Afterwards, Annette Lavakataritum prepared a workshop for us about the role of work in our daily lives in Germany and Tanzania. We will make a short break around 11 later, and afterwards, you will have the opportunity to meet different Tanzanian people with different occupations. So, whatever you always wanted to ask an artist, a teacher, or a Boda driver, you will have the chance to do it so later. But for now, have a deeper look into digitalization in Tanzania. Ndimbumi Msongole is a remote worker based in Tanzania and is marketing manager at the Digital Opportunity Trust. This is a Canadian youth-led organization dedicated to mobilizing and inspiring young people with digital literacy and what you call 21st century skills. Her goal is to drive an inclusive digital economy. We know her for many years now, and for example, interviewed her already on the question of gender and digitalization in 2020. The video you can watch also on our YouTube channel, and the link is to be found in the chat. But don't watch it now, watch it later, because now we have the opportunity to have Mbumi here with us live and in color from Arusha. Karibu sana, Mbumi.
Asante sana. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ndimbumi Msongole, and as I was very well introduced, I am so happy to be here and present what I know, what I've researched around click workers in Tanzania. So I will start by sharing a presentation with you and some few insights that I've gathered around this area. And then afterwards, I'm sure we'll have a chance for us to have a Q&A where I can answer some of the questions that I might have not covered during my presentation.
Perfect. I'm looking forward. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Okay, so a little bit of background. So over the past 10 years, Tanzania has made some significant strides on digital transformation. We've had the luck of having some very progressive ministers who have been driving conversation around digital economy and how we can use technology in education, employment, and businesses. We all understand that when the globalization wave took over the world was mostly connected to Africa, but Africa wasn't that connected to the world. But with the digital economy and having access to internet, right now we feel more like we are part of that globalization, that our message, our stories, our narratives are now going out to the world and not just us receiving other narratives around the world. And with that came accesses to new markets, supply chains that have catalyzed for the creation of jobs. As businesses are going online, as young people are searching for opportunities online, we've seen an emergence of microworks and freelancing opportunities for young people. Because this trend has grown businesses and has opened doors to so many opportunities out there, both for us to import some information and goods, but also for us to export some of our culture, our businesses, and ideas. We now have, the customers all now have access to new and broader choices of commodities, but also it creates jobs for the 1 million plus young people who are entering the job market on the annual basis. These young women would usually enter the job market every year, but because there is not enough jobs for all of them, they might find themselves stuck, and while they're looking for jobs, they did not have a lot to be doing around the country. But with MicroWorks, right now, a young person who graduates has the choice of saying, hey, to a business, I would like to support you in your digital marketing. I would like to support you to create a website, or I would like to support you to order or interact with that supplier in China, Turkey, etc. So now that market is open up, and this free flow of information has opened so many doors for employment and businesses. But with that, there is still it's a bitsy problem with the gender digital gap. We are a country of 60 million people, and around 30 million people have access to internet through mobile devices for the most part. But on that percentage, only 70%, 17% of women have access to mobile internet compared to the 35 men. That's twice the amount of women who have access to the internet. That's twice the amount. And with that, we see that the trend for young women working online and access microworks and access employment online for Tanzania as of now is only about 12%. This is according to the ICT Commission, which tried to register and to gather as much information about how many people are working online, how many people have access to microworks or working in any way around the digital economy. And when they did that, they found that only 12% of those professionals are women. The leading cause that has been discovered by the UN Women as to why women are not really or fully online or utilizing these opportunities has been that one, access to devices, because there is still an imbalance when it comes to purchasing power, when it comes to financial power for women. And so just having that device, so a young woman can access the internet, can access opportunity, counts for 64% as to why women are not online or utilizing the opportunities that have come with the digital economy. And the second part is the absence of internet connection, especially for rural women, because the infrastructure is not fully set yet, and internet is sometimes not that stable. And so for many, they might have that device, but access to internet can still be a challenge. And also there is the challenge of digital literacy. We've been thrown into this space where it's a complete different jungle for many young men and women, but not taught how to utilize this space. We are not fully oriented on how to utilize the space, how to create content, how to gain and see opportunities, where to seek them and how to get them. And with that, 14% of young women are still back and are still held back into the digital economy because of this. And when it comes to access to internet as well, I should mention that the 13% is also held back, not just by the infrastructure, but even the amount of money it takes for a person to be online. So you'd find that a person might have a device, but the internet price itself might hold them back from being part of the digital economy. For Digital Opportunity Trust, we started a gender and digital working group where we convened partners to make sure that we sit together, understand these challenges for young women, and try to solve them together. We've seen that there are a lot of initiatives around closing the gender digital gap in Tanzania. But if we're working in silos, we might be pulling out resources in different directions, losing out on data, and not understanding that you're trying to do this research, but someone else has already done it, or you're trying to create this initiative, but it's been done by someone else. So we brought together around 10 partners, and that number is growing, to come together and put our heads together when it comes to trying to close the gender digital gap in Tanzania. And some of the solutions that we're trying to prioritize is to enhance access, safety, and skills, especially for young women. First, we're trying to make the online a safe space for young women. I will admit that even for me, when I was trying to get into certain platforms, it was scary, because you'd find that it's a digital space. Yes, you're trying to share your ideas, you're trying to convey some message, do a business, and make connections. But you find that in that same space, there are people who will go out of their way to make women's lives miserable, and they would specifically target women. And even if a woman is trying to sell a product, they will still try to go into her personal life. You will try and sell something and they tell you, why would you do this? Are you married? Don't you have a family to take care of? Or if a woman stumbles and does something, the attacks on her will be way more personal than when it's the other way around, when it's a male. So I'll find myself that there are platforms that I would not use that well because they were scary. You'll get attacks, and I will not name names, but we know one of the platforms that people just throw away their opinions out there, and some women just shy away from being on those platforms because it could get painful. And also, we're trying to improve access to relevant digital skills and training, upskilling and reskilling the labor force. For some young men and women, they'll come out of college without even knowing how to use a computer properly, or how even to access opportunities out there. A young person might come out, they don't even know how to write an email well, they don't even know how to search for a job online, they don't even understand how to build a business online. And so our part in the way we've tried to close the gap and try to support young men and women in this is by giving them skills that will help and support them to transition into the workspace in a way that gives them digital skills that they really, really matter in the market. And we even gone a step further to make sure that a young person might enter a job market. Yes, they were studying law, but we all know that they will not all get employment. So we'll give them extra skills that will support them in that. We even go as far as training them on web development, digital marketing skills, data analysis, things like those that they can utilize. Any young person can use that to source for jobs online and make a living for themselves. To improve, so there's improvement in internet access, affordability. This also needs to be taken into account because in the span of just 3 years, internet prices have shot in some of the networks even 5 times higher. So when you go online and young people will just say like bundle, that's for us, that's when you're trying to buy a bundle for internet. It used to be a fraction of what it is now. And as more young people were interested in getting online, the price shot up, which makes it difficult for most of them to get in because once someone is a graduate, they really don't have the finances to have to pay for higher prices on internet. And two, these are young women. There are some young women who might not be able to access internet simply because they don't have that purchasing power. And this threatens to widen the gender digital gap and further keep young women offline and away from the opportunities that come with the digital economy. Some of the major challenges and roadblocks that we've noticed are the overall digital infrastructure. The government has done a very great job of trying to collaborate with the private sector, building the fiber optic line and trying to connect people as much as possible, especially in rural areas. And that seemed to have worked. A lot of spaces that were not connected at all 10 years ago are now fully connected. And they're trying to make sure that at least the urban and peri-urban areas are connected. We have, of course, a lot of rural areas that are already connected to the internet, but at least those major areas where we know that a lot of business is going on, a lot of exchanges is going on, there's a lot of graduates and people who need access to internet, the government has tried to put that in place. But that work is far from over, and we still need more effort in that area. Also, access to finances remains a challenge, especially for entrepreneurs who are trying to develop digital solutions. So there are young men and women who have ideas on things that could benefit the Tanzanian community, on creating platforms, on creating digital technology solutions that can support their communities. But financing to those areas has proven a challenge. and even some regulation, and this will be my third point, some regulatory frameworks around the digital economy seem to be holding back the young men and women. And sadly, we have seen a trend where if a young person or a young entrepreneur has a really good business idea around digital technology, they'll go out and register it in another country because that seems easier than registering it here. Regulations they have been quite a setback, but we are happy that there are some changes in policies and frameworks that are now being put in place to make sure that these businesses are not going out. Although sadly, we've seen some major ones already going out. So hopefully they'll come back with better policies in place. So the click workers in Tanzania, that's me, one of them. The number is not really fully recorded because it's work. So a person might get work somewhere out there, might not really expect, just share that I work remotely. And some people don't even understand. I have people in my family who don't know that I work remotely. They'll just ask, why don't you go to the office? I'll explain once, and then when we meet again, they forgot that, yes, I work for an organization which is in Canada, but I work here. And they're like, so you're in Canada now? No, I'm in Arusha. So it's still not very well, they're not fully documented what the number of click workers in Tanzania. But we've noticed that only a small percentage of these click workers treat these opportunities as full-time jobs. So most will do this as a part-time or as a bridge as they look for real employment, but not something they'll do fully. And most of them will use it as a supplement to their income. They want a side job, a gig they can do on the side, but they still want to get a job somewhere physically where they can work and have an office, etc. Because it's still a belief that if you're in an office, you have a certain company you're working for, then that's employment, rather than having multiple places where you work with. You just need to create your own timetable, work for certain hours in this company, work for certain hours in this company, and have an income and work from anywhere around the world. In our Tanzania Youth Digital Summit report, we also note that the click workers face some challenges when trying to secure the first client. We know that for many platforms that actually give micro works to young people look for experiences. Unfortunately, even in normal jobs, they look for experiences, even if somebody's a fresh graduate. So to land that first client without having a previous one has proven a challenge. And many young people have been scammed online, unfortunately. So they're skeptical about going online. Somebody says, I can only work remotely. I don't have to be in any office. They might know a person who is doing that, but when that opportunity comes to them, it still feels like a far-fetched dream. And there's just, maybe I should see your office, and maybe I should come to your office and we do an interview before I join the office. So they've been scammed. And a lot of times it's just from local interaction. Very few would even attempt to go on international, to gun for international opportunities. But those that are here online, a person might see a job online, and then when they try to apply, someone calls them and tells them, can you pay me this amount of money so I put you in an interview, etc., etc. So it becomes a space where just it's not a place that they want to be. And also, there's a lack of fairness. When a young person from Africa applies for a job, it's online, yes, it's remote. Somehow they will get little pay than what other of his counterparts will say they're experiencing. I have heard my own accounts of this, where it's a job, yes, another person is doing it, a friend is doing it in another country, and they're being paid a certain amount. But when someone from here tries to apply for the same thing, for the same, even micro work, you will find that they're offered a smaller amount. And that it discourages young people to be in there, because you hear that remote work pays, micro works pay, but when you're trying to enter that same space, it's not the same for you. And so it's a space that can be discouraging. But for Tanzania, what we've seen so far is that there is an evolving culture around remote working. I was one of the lucky ones that when COVID hit, that remote working was not something new for me, but it was something new for a lot of people. And as it was that we were supposed to transition into remote working while COVID was at its highest, only 31% of enterprises actually transitioned into remote working. And these were major companies that actually understood that work can be done from home. And some of them, even up to date, they have not, some of their workers are not back in the office. They're okay with them working remotely. And there's still a lot of productivity, and they're still giving out the same results that they still gave, so they are comfortable with that. But some are still skeptical about it. They still want to see people. They still want that interaction, and because it goes both ways. The employer might not trust the employee to work from home, and the employee, maybe some of them don't even want to stay home. It was hard for me. So I used to work remotely, but I used to go to work. We have an office. I can choose to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday not go, or just go one day a week. That was fine. But when COVID hit, it requires that we stay fully at home. And that could get a little crazy because home is home and office is office. So it was a stretch a little bit, but over time, yeah, we got used to it. It was easier, and now it's just home. But office is when we're trying to go to the office, connect with people, have those one-on-one meetings that we want, but it's not exactly something that it's not. We are okay with working remotely now, at least from the organization that I work with. Now, so according to the ILO survey, only 31% of the enterprises in Tanzania implemented remote work during the pandemic. And since then, has been a growing interest, and we're hoping to see more of that because there are very talented young men and women who are out in peri-urban and some rural areas with internet access. And there are some employers who are in the cities or even out of Tanzania who could really use that talent, but they need that connection. And we hope that this trend will continue to grow. Last year, we made a major stride in Tanzania. Our ICT policy was finally out and started being in effect as of November. And there are some very good indication that the government is really ready to move forward and implement some of the strategies that we've had in place for the longest time. And the key things that I've noticed and in their commitment is, one, they are trying to bridge the gender digital divide. They are doing this by stating in that policy that they will ensure diverse social groups in both gender have equal opportunities to participate in the development. And they will also facilitate and support initiatives focusing on bridging the digital divide. So now organizations like Digital Opportunity Trust, who have been working in Tanzania for the past 11 years, trying to bridge the gender digital divide, have the backing of the government. And we're happy to see such statements that are put in the policy, and we cannot wait to work with the government to ensure that we see all of this come to fruition. They also want to promote digital skills development. And in the policy statement, they said that the government is going to promote integration of digital skills development in formal education systems, and also facilitate competency advancement in ICT experts for in-demand and ICT, for in-demand ICT and soft skills. And they have been doing this already. It's just good to see it that it's an actual policy and we can hold them accountable for it. And the last thing that stood out for me was facilitate access to affordable devices and services. Whereas because we've seen that 64% of women cannot join the digital economy because of access to digital devices and services. So the government has stated that they will ensure financing mechanisms and schemes for affordability and accessibility of computing devices and digital services to marginalized groups in rural and urban underserved areas. And this is a huge commitment for the government. The policy contains a lot of commitments from the government, and we look forward to working with them to make sure that these actually come to life and that the Tanzanian young men and women actually get to enjoy the digital economy and gain a lot of opportunities from them. So that is it from my presentation. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope I wasn't over time. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting, and you've covered a lot of topics. Thank you. I really enjoyed listening to you. The applause is for you. Some people are using the hand clapping symbol for you. So thank you very much. Like Daniela already wrote in the chat, you are warmly welcome to add your comments and questions in the chat. But I also have a question in my mind because you've talked a lot about opportunities, work opportunities for the people in the digital sector. Maybe you can elaborate what typical jobs are there in the digital sector? Like what kind of work can the people do there? Or like what is their task or their job? Yeah.
Okay, so the trend we've seen right now is that for jobs, it's typically data entry, creating the website development, graphics designing mostly, because from what we've noticed, there are a lot of businesses that are transitioning into digital and they're trying to set up their own shops online. They're trying to reach customers through social media platforms, and the young people are the tech savvy ones. So they will always go to them and ask, can you create this ad for me? Can you open this page for me? And can you run it for me? So that's where the young people get the most opportunities. And also the young people themselves are now opening businesses where now a young person might not have a shop or even have the capital to start a business, but they will go to a place called, let's say, Kariako. That's our biggest consumer market. They will go to Kariako, go to different shops, take photos of a shoe, a purse, a bag or something else, or a laptop. They'll take photos and put them on their WhatsApp status or post them on their social media pages on Facebook and whatnot, and tell people, I'm selling this for this much, and you will pay for delivery. And if a person says, hey, I'm interested, I want this product, then they run back to Kariako, grab that, buy that shoe with the customer's money, and then sell it. And they make money. They don't own a shop. They don't have capital. They just work around with the same capital they have. And some of them have made very good money through this. I know some personal ones that have sold computers, so they've sold shoes. They started with no capital. All they had was their smartphone. Yeah, so those are the kinds of jobs that are emerging from this. And I have seen also some young people who have access to platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, and they're selling their talent outside of Tanzania, which is a very good it's a very good trend. And not just that, what we've noticed is that they also train other young people on how to access those, which is good. So we are hoping to see a larger number of young people joining that space as well.
Thank you so much for elaborating that. I like I like the idea a lot. You also said a lot about social injustice regarding gender, like that women are still facing a lot of challenges. And you also said sometimes it's a question of money and infrastructure to access internet. So this means this is also a question of maybe people in the cities versus countryside, and also regarding poor people. What I thought is there also in the chat there was the question, is there also an age gap, because you're talking a lot about young people, which makes sense in a country like Tanzania, which is very young, which makes sense in the topic of digitalization. But maybe you can elaborate on the question of an age gap, or is there something regarding older people and digitalization?
Okay, I might not have all the statistics around the age, but I could say that the older people were a little bit slower to join the internet. Seemed like it was something that the kids would play with and not really work with. And there was a lot of resistance in the workplace spaces where because the older generations were on the senior levels, and when the young people wanted to integrate technology and internet into the work, some spaces first faced a lot of resistance because of that. But fortunately, they've seen the trend and they're changing that. And because when I say senior, we know that even in the government spaces, a lot of people who actually have the voice and decision makers are on the senior level. So that I think puts us a little bit back when it comes to digitalization, because the people who were supposed to drive that were not the ones who were excited about it. The young people were excited about it, but they were not the decision makers. So a little bit slower, yeah. But once they enter, I see, and my mom joined the internet like 3 years back. They're excited about it. They love the space, they love the flow of information that they can get information as easily as possible. Yeah, yeah. So that's what I know about the age gap.
Thank you. So you mentioned the problem or challenge maybe that the decision makers are sometimes older people, and there's also still a lot of questions about the decision makers and policy and the government. Like you explained, the strategy and the commitment, but how, yeah, maybe the question in the chat, I can read it out. How likely is it for the Tanzanian government to hold up their policy commitments regarding the promotion of digital work? Like, what do they really do and do not just say to do?
We're here to hold them accountable. Now we have something to hold to them and say, you promised on this policy that you will support us. Yeah. So it's good. Fortunately, right now, and again, it might speak to the age gap. We used to have very senior, very older people in holding positions in the ministries, but now we have young ministers. And so they're really trying to advocate for digitalization. Our past minister for ICT and the current one seem to have one voice around this. And they're not only doing things by themselves, they are actually calling stakeholders. I was actually in a very interesting meeting Monday, this past Monday, where the minister called in the ICT stakeholders to ask for their feedback, opinions around how the sector is going. And the private sector got to share their own ideas, their own feedback. And so they're listening, which is a good trend. They're listening. So we're thinking that because of that trend, they will hold up to their promises.
Okay, thank you for this insight. And also, maybe you can explain how or far, to what extent the government is implying this digital education in schools already. Like you said, that maybe is a crucial point to do it very early.
Yeah, very crucial. Some of the primary schools now have computer rooms where young people can start they can start connecting to the digital world and learn about some of the basic skills that they could use as they grow. But also the government has also been tapping a lot into the private sector and the development partners to support them in providing these devices and in providing the education and skills. For DOT, we even went as far as training teachers. In the past, we had a program called Teach Up, where we trained teachers in VETA. This is a vocational skill college, but this one specifically trained teachers. And we went there, and one made sure that the teachers that are coming out have the skills and knowledge to train using digital skills and introduce the digital platforms to their students, but also to make them comfortable with the digital space. We found that, and when we were starting, we were training them in groups. And then we stopped that. We started training them as individuals, because sometimes just not knowing made people uncomfortable, that I don't know how to use this device. It made them uncomfortable. So for the government to implement this, I think it will need a lot of support from the private sector and most especially the development partners, and our expertise as well. So as we were doing that, we were hoping that the government will pick that up, and we've been in communication with them that once we're done with training a certain amount of teachers, can you pick this up? So we're hoping that the government can learn and adapt some of the things that the private sector is doing, especially development partners.
Thank you. And apart from schools and teaching the teachers, where else do people learn about their digital schools? Like, where can they educate themselves? What role do universities or colleges play?
Yeah, there are a lot of small spaces where people can learn. Small colleges, we might call them, where people open these spaces and train people on how to use computers, how to train them on basic digital skills. And it's been a trend for the past about 10 years, where when a young person finishes O-level, a parent might pay for them to attend such a school so they know how to use the computer a little bit. So what I can say I've noticed is that they will know how to use the digital devices, but then when it comes to some of the key most important skills, like the email etiquettes, how to search for opportunities online. So you might find a person that there are jobs online, but they might be still surfing on newspapers looking for jobs, when all those jobs can be found somewhere with just a few clicks of a button, and they could find those opportunities. So that gap is still there, where some of them might even know how to use the digital devices, but they don't have the skills on how to tap into the opportunities that are out there and gain some soft skills around digital literacy.
And apart that, another challenge you already mentioned is the internet access as in terms of money. There's the question if there are any efforts being made to reduce the data prices, which rose so much.
Yeah. Funny enough, even though we were complaining that our data prices are high, ours is still smaller than compared to a lot of East African countries, which is scary. I'm thinking, like, if I go to another country, I'll be shocked. But for Tanzania, they say it's a little bit smaller than most of the countries. And the government have tried, because people did raise their voices that with these kind of prices, you are keeping people away from opportunities that they could tap into just by being online. And with that, the government removed some of the tariffs that they were imposed on the networks, and so it stabilized the bundle prices a little bit. We're hoping they'll keep that effort up, and with time, that price might go down. And they're also introducing new service providers for the internet. Some of the major providers around the who say that they can tune down the price of internet. I have an interest now in Tanzania, and for some of them, they're in final talks, and they could be introduced soon into the country.
I was also wondering, like you said, compared maybe to other countries, the internet prices are maybe differently. Can you tell us, compared to other East African countries, the digital sector in Tanzania is maybe like compared to Uganda or Kenya?
Research and popular opinion would say we're slightly behind Kenya. But for the most part, for the East African countries, we are more advanced. And in some cases, we are supplying internet access to other East African countries. I know that we're supplying to Congo. I'm not sure about other countries, but yeah, we are actually a gateway for other countries to have internet access.
And what about the digital work sector? Like, do you know if this is comparable or differently?
Yeah, so for the digital sector, I'll say we are in so many stages at once. I would say we are a country where there are people who know nothing about the internet or even have digital literacy at all, and then there are those who have a medium scale of knowledge. They know how to access the internet. They know how to access information, share and then receive information. And we have those who are experts and they know how to fully utilize the digital spaces. And so the expert make up for a very few percent. The middle one, the middle space makes up for a larger space, not so large because most of them are still not accessing the internet. And that fluctuation makes for a very interesting combination. And when, for example, when we are trying to create an intervention, we're trying to cater for all these groups, understanding there are some people, and we've seen, who have never met a computer, and we try to cater to that. Help them as they first understand the computer, hold a mouse. We had a child cry because they were asked to hold a computer, a mouse. That was way back when, though. But it was, for some people, it's that alien. But for some groups that have been to school, have some interaction, they have some interaction with the digital technology. We're everywhere. We are going through all the stages at once, which is interesting when we're trying to implement some projects. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked how you said like the possibilities or the opportunities of internet connectivity, which on a global scale, which really connects each other and make free information flow, and you can export and exchange your ideas. Before looking on another opportunity and maybe a more positive aspect, I want to ask about a really challenging question we had in preparing this workshop, like many the future which awaits us in digitalization, about artificial intelligence, for example, ChatGPT and so on. They need huge data sets, and therefore you need the click workers who train these data sets. And these click workers, some of them, they have to watch or see really disturbing and violent pictures and videos, and there are studies that they have a lot of traumatic stress and are underpaid. So you really have this question of of working rights, human rights in the digital sector. Can you elaborate on that? Is this playing a role in Tanzania?
I've heard about that, but I have not heard of the same account for here in Tanzania. So yes, some of the challenges that these workers have faced are faced by Tanzanian click workers, and those are the ones that I think I've highlighted, like the low pay, they're scammed. The working hours are not favorable because for most of them it comes from another country, completely different time zone, and they have to adapt to that, and their lives have shifted quite a bit to accommodate that kind of work. But for the cases like ChatGPT, no, I have not heard of that here in Tanzania. Fortunately, unfortunately for those in Kenya, but we are hoping that will be resolved soon. Yeah.
So do you have that like in your mind, but it's not applying to Tanzania in that scale? Okay. Like I promised, I want to focus on some positive aspects too, and was wanting from you, maybe you could say something about digital products like websites, games, apps for mobile phones, and so on, which really do make a difference in society or for the people or in development. Can you elaborate on that question? Like maybe tell us and our people here what are Tanzanian digital products we have to hear about, we have to know about?
One of the products that are doing very well here in Tanzania, Shule Direct. They are an online learning platform, and they supported a lot of kids to stay in school and learn during the pandemic. They have a lot of content around the primary education and secondary education, and so they were instrumental when children and parents were trying to access school materials during the pandemic, and they're still doing that now. They started way before the pandemic, and thank God they were here before the pandemic. And so when the pandemic hit, they were very instrumental in supporting kids to stay learning during the pandemic. There are other platforms like Mtabe. I don't remember the other platforms. No, there is there's Ubongo Kids. They too are learning platforms. They're using video animations to convey very interesting topics to kids. And those are some of the platforms that I know about that are products from Tanzania. And there are others. Wait, there are others that are even providing jobs. I know Fundi app, which started as one of the social innovators that was supported by Tanzania. Their role is to connect the normal handyman with their customers. So if someone wants a handyman to fix their pipes, to fix their roof, let's say, they can just go into the app, look for prices like Uber, but for handymen. Yeah. So yeah, those are some of the platforms that I know and products from Tanzania.
Thank you for enlightening us on this question. Maybe the last one. This is aimed at you personally as a digital worker working remotely. How do you and Mbumi see big projects to promote the IT sector in Tanzania, like Silicon Dar or Silicon Zanzibar?
Okay. It's very exciting to see those things happening. We've been working with organizations that are part of the Silicon Dar and some that are part of the Silicon Zanzibar. And I can safely say that it's a very exciting space to be in. I am very happy to share my knowledge to support other Tanzanian young men and women who are trying to get into these platforms and to connect with investors as they're trying to develop their own projects, etc., etc. So I see this playing a big role because we've made quite some stride in the past 10 years, but these spaces provide for direction and collective efforts in taking the country into a certain space. And we're really looking forward to seeing those happen.
Thank you so much. Wow, I really got many new insights in the last hours. And I want to thank you for your good presentation and also that you answered so many questions. Like we had a look at all the challenges the digital sector faces, like the question where to get the education, how to gain the access and make it equal to everybody. We had the question of bullying or sexism, maybe also the question of age gap. But then thank you for having a look at the government strategies, at the efforts of the companies as well as organizations, and now ending with a very pointed view on the opportunities, like learning platforms, connecting platforms, creating jobs, and exchanging. So tunakushukuru sana for your expertise, for your presentation. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.